No one will disagree that Disco Elysium is brilliant, but a lot like Dark Souls, most of the praise comes from people who have finished it. It comes from those who can't remember the struggle. I have a lot of friends who tried and bounced off the game within the first few hours. Speaking to them, it's hard to tell what was wrong. The world is fascinating, the dialogue is engaging, the concept of skills as aspects of your personality is wildly fresh. And yet, they dreaded having to keep playing, because they somehow felt like the game was being unfair. I think there are two types of game design rules. Firstly, there are things like control schemes. You can play a platformer and be confident that A will be jump. In a shooter, X will be reload. You trust these, and it would be irritating of the game to not follow them. That's mechanical conventions. Disco Elysium doesn't break these, it breaks metaphysical conventions. Let me explain. Let's say you're playing a game set in a zombie apocalypse, and two of your friends are about to get grabbed at the same time. The game gives you two options: shout "and watch out" to warn the first person, or shout "Jake behind you" to warn the other. You've played games a million times, you know how this shtick works. This is where you decide who to save and who gets to live. But what if it's not? What if you shout "and watch out" and you startle both of them, they both take a step back and both get grabbed? However, if you shout "Jake behind you," he clocks on, but so does Anne, who checks her surroundings and manages to save herself. Now, why does this feel like an unfair choice? The game never lied to you, but it also didn't follow through on a beat of the narrative the way that is customary in games. You may not realize when Disco Elysium breaks these rules, but somehow it will feel wrong. Like you and the game had a secret, unspoken agreement on how the rules work. You weren't cheated out of anything, and yet it still feels unfair. Our protagonist is an amnesiac detective who forgot everything about the world and himself. But the thing is, we have him. We have knowledge outside of this world that we bring in with us. When Measurehead is spouting his advanced race theory, you know exactly what each stereotype he mentions is alluding to in the real world. When we find the bedroom of a young boy who worships Kraz Mazov, our own knowledge tells us he's a communist a lot sooner than Harry finds out. And alongside this knowledge, we also bring these subliminal rules of how games work on a metaphysical level, part of our own ancient reptilian brain that picked them up over a lifetime of playing. There are 4 rules I found, and Disco Elysium revels in being every single one of them out of you. It does it all relentlessly within the first day. We wake up in a trashed room. After speaking to the hotel owner, we found out it's our room, we trashed it, and we need to scrounge up 130 real if we want to have a place to sleep tonight. We have 0 real. Not only are there no obvious ways to earn money, this is moments after we're introduced to the fact that the game doesn't sit still. We're on the clock. No worries, this is a video game. You may not realize it consciously, but games have taught you that numbers are always stacked in your favor. For example, if you're told, "Save this person's life, quick," it's almost less stressful when there is a timer on the screen, because you know they accounted for enough. A loading screen tooltip recommends you to find a plastic bag and collect bottles for quick cash. This is a trap. There's a lot of bottles in the starting area, but if you spend half an hour picking them up and try to sell them off, it only adds up to about 6 real. Of course it does, they're bottles, what did you expect? You have the opportunity to beg for money from other characters. This is always a bad idea. They'll either refuse or offer you a deal that sets off all kinds of alarm bells in your head. And you played enough games to know that those are bad choices. You'll search for abandoned buildings looking for money, and of course all you'll find is spare change. They're abandoned, why would each drawer have a stash of cash in them? And all this time, the day is passing you by. It starts getting late, you're not just short of 130 real, you're short of any money whatsoever. You're so far off that you must be doing something wrong. The thing is, if this hotel room fee was part of the narrative, if Kim suggested a guy he knows who can hook you up with some cash, if it was neatly tucked away in the quest log, you wouldn't worry. Then it would be narrative money. You would assume it's a plot point that sooner or later would resolve itself. But by making the money numerical right there on your screen at all times, it becomes a mechanic. And if the money is a mechanic, it becomes your fault, your responsibility. Like managing hit points. That's the first metaphysical rule. You've played enough games to know what is narrative and what is actual mechanic. The story is the game's responsibility, but numbers are on you. Whether you know it or not, you thought, it's not a plot point, I simply did not play well enough to get this number higher, and now I don't even know what options are left. Money isn't your only worry. There's a body up in the tree for over a week, and it's so rotten that you can't even get close because of the smell. You're a detective solving this body's murder. You need to investigate it and get it down, but you can't do it if you can't hold in your own vomit. The first time you try, there's a skill check. It's one of the less fun skills, so chances are you did not spec hard into it. As expected, Kim recommends asking a nearby gardener for some herbs to help with the smell. Easy enough, she gives you a few, you try again, and...
Not so much. When the vomiting is done, your cheeks are wet with tears.
There's one last safety net. Kim, frustrated with you, tells you to get your shit together. This unlocks an actual ability to get your shit together, but it will take a few hours. Time is passing, and the body is still in the tree. It's brought up often in conversation, a reminder of your failure. You try again much later, guess what? Now there's no other option. Kim doesn't chime in with any new idea on how to make this check easier. If he did, you would know that the developers intended for this to happen. But because this is where the dialogue ends, you feel like you're missing out on future content. Even when you do pass the check on the smell, there is more. A long autopsy proceeds where you find nothing useful. But one of your faculties tells you that you have missed something. Usually if a background skill check fails, the corresponding voice simply says nothing. This is the only time you're told, hey idiot, you missed something. You'll fail this one too. And if you want to try again, you'll have to leave the body hanging for even longer. That's subliminal rule number 2. Skill checks lock you out of content if you fail them enough. That's why people save scum. It's frustrating because you're clearly fucking up something crucial. You feel like there are big parts of the story you'll miss out on because of how the dice roll. As you play, the game tracks a secret metric and reveals it to you a few hours in. Your Copo type, a sort of D&D style alignment of what kind of cop you are. There's a big selection, but chances are we all got the same one, the sorry cop. Because the early parts of the game concern less the murder investigation and more the things Harry did in his last night of drunken rage. You angered and upset in some way most people you meet, and the game gives you a chance to make up for your mistakes. These always feel like correct dialogue options. You know, when you reach a tense moment between multiple characters and you need to pick sides and you're stressed now about each possibility, and then the game gives you an option that goes something like, let's all be friends and work together. That's clearly the right option, an instant win. You don't have to think anymore. Disco Elysium has these dialogue options, but they're always bait. You'll be asking a potential lead about something to do with the case, and they'll reveal a shitty thing you did. So you click the instant win option to apologize sincerely, and then you drop the lead. Early on, there are so many times where you'll be pushing for information when the character gets uncomfortable and the game will give you an option to back off. You've played enough games to know this is a warning sign and you let it go. That Copo type is punishment for that. A sorry cop. You're a goddamn detective. This town will not give any of its secrets away. How do you expect to solve a case when you have no handle on your own authority? That's metaphysical rule number 3. In dialogue-based games, there's always the right golden option that takes you down to the good ending. There's one more rule. It manifests itself in your questioning of Joyce, a representative of the company you're investigating. The interrogation is different to any other you had so far. She's rich, she's intimidating, and she's determined to be as helpful as possible without really telling you anything. It's also the only interrogation where Kim pulls you aside before you talk and makes sure you're aware of how important this conversation is. You have the chance to learn something here. You know the shtick by now, you didn't find out anything. Joyce is a shut door, and if you do especially badly, she can run a few circles around you. You leave the conversation not only a failure, but put down in your place in the societal pecking order. There's a lot of time when Kim expresses his disappointment in you, but it's always bookended by encouragement. You can try again, we can do this later. Not here. The last rule, anything is possible. If a game so much as implies you could do something, if it implies something could be possible, no matter how low the chance, it means you can do it. Not here. Joyce is smarter than you, and she will best you every single time. Was breaking these metaphysical rules intentional? Who knows, but the fact is, it works, and it has a profound effect on people. I know a lot of people who quit. The struggle of Dark Souls is mechanical, like rolling the wrong character, the wrong stats, the wrong weapon, and having to restart the game. Disco Elysium is arguably harder because you feel like you have nothing to blame but your own incompetence. You may see where I'm going with this. If you keep playing, you'll realize that the hotel debt doesn't matter. Home is where, if you have to go, they have to take you in, even if that ends up being a dumpster. Later on, a friend generously lets you stay in their cabin, and that worry comes to pass. Those corpse skill checks, there'll be more, much more. After the autopsy, you have to get the body down. Then you have to find a place to store it. Then you need to remove it. It doesn't get easier, but Kim tells you early on to take it one thing at a time. And together, you do. The Copo type and Joyce's interrogation? I know a few people who felt personally insulted at being called a sorry cop and overcompensated. They lashed out, became aggressive, made more mistakes over their emotions. It's okay. It's your first day on the job. Things will get easier. All this puts you in the same exact situation as Harry. A world that does not work how you expect it to. One that makes you feel inadequate, makes you doubt yourself. You will fail, but you will carry on. You're the infernal engine, and you do not stop. If the game punished you in a clear matter, like Dark Souls, none of these feelings would arise. You would understand what you're doing wrong, and you'd be safe in the knowledge that eventually you would succeed. Disco Elysium wants to teach us a lesson about our own world, one that isn't a video game made to be beaten. To me, it wants to say, don't worry so much. Love freely even if it doesn't work out. Fail hard even if it means missing out. Throw yourself fully into a belief, even if it turns out to mean nothing at all. Time will make fools of us all either way. Thanks for watching.